Hello, welcome to Mouse Magic. I'm Lewis. Thanks for tuning into the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Incredibles 2 movie. Now I'm a little late to this review. It was out about a week ago, so I'm thinking if you've already seen it, and there's not major spoilers, but I am going to talk about plot points. So instead of like previous videos where I would talk about a non-spoiler review and just give you my thoughts on the film, whether I liked it, and then a spoiler video, I'm just going to do a whole video where I'm talking about what I like, what I don't like, and I'm going to talk about the plot points. I'm going to do one video for The Incredibles 2 on this one. So, I like this film. Again, I'm always biased because it's Disney, but I think this film holds up even if you're not a big Disney fan. Even if you're not a superhero fan, it's just a good movie. I think it's going to have some major scenes, just kind of like the first film, that are just going to have a life of their own. There's one or two things I just kind of was like, I don't know how I felt about that one. But overall, I can't wait to see it again. And I think you're going to enjoy it. I can't recommend this film enough. Go see it in theaters. So, a lot of people have seen the trailer, and you already know what's going to happen in the film, or you already kind of get an idea of what's being set up. This movie picks up right where the first Incredibles left off 14 years ago, and what a good idea. They have the fight with the Underminer, and it kind of gets them in hot water again. You know, a lot of the city's destroyed, and the superheroes got to take the fall for that. The government program that kept them employed and in hiding, that's being defunded, so now they're on their own. They're just a couple weeks away from homelessness, and they have to live in a hotel, and what are they going to do? And someone comes along, a benefactor who wants to bring superheroes back, loves superheroes, and wants them back into the spotlight, and wants to find a way of rehabbing them. And they do what's really good in the first film. They do that here too. They take a little cue from the Marvel universe in that these people the superheroes have real world problems. Now, their cue from the DC universe is that the cities and places that are portrayed in the film are not real places in the world. So you don't have like Peter Parker living in New York City. These are made up cities. But they have real world problems, and it's what makes you like The Incredibles. It's why we relate to them. We get to see these people for who they are, not just their amazing things. One of the things that makes this film really good is not only that the benefactor like the superheroes, he's coming up with real world solutions. Basically talking about putting a body cam on them to show their point of view, why they made the decisions they've made, that even though there might be collateral damage, it's better than what would have happened had the supers not been there. So the idea is we need the superheroes around to protect us from a worse damage. And along with that, giving a real world solution. Why bring back Elastigirl? Why is she the one that's going to rehab the reputation of the heroes? And it's because women tend to do less damage. I like how the makers of The Incredibles bring in that real world issue of men versus women, perceptions. Can they do a good job or a better job? Who's better at their job? Why are the women not getting creative? And why women might not get the credit that's due them for doing as good a job, or sometimes a better job than a man might do. And that's a nice theme that runs along the movie. And I also liked what they did with Bob Parr. You saw this in the trailer, that he's got to take care of the family. And they do a really good job with the montage of he's got to figure out how to make the household run well. A little Easter egg that was in there, they get to stay and live in this billionaire's house that used to be a super, so there's a lot of tunnels in there already, and it looks suspiciously like Tony Stark's house. they do a good job of showing the struggles of how to make a house work, how to raise kids, how to do homework. And Bob Parr, who once again is voiced by Craig T. Nelson, steps up to the challenge. He recognizes his role right now, and he does a good job at parenting. Now, along with these, as they move along and they introduce characters, the benefactor's sister, they're not quite on the same page. They're supposed to be working towards the same goal, but you can see there's a little tension there. And for me, I thought that was obvious where this was going, who was going to be the antagonist of the film. And it's one of the things that I thought was a little bit weaker in this film than in the first film. It's not that she wasn't layered, but I just saw it coming. In the first film, whose syndrome is and how we get involved and how we get deeper into the first film as Mr. Incredible goes on his journeys, you're wondering what's happening, who's doing what, and as we find out it's Buddy all along, that's a little surprising. In this one, I'm not shocked to find out Evelyn, very close to evil, is the antagonist of the film, and she does not want Super's back. But before we get to that complete reveal, we follow Elastigirl in some adventures, and I gotta tell you, the action scenes in this film are good. So you have to start off with the Underminer. You get your voice cameo by our favorite mailman, Cliff Clavin. John Ratzenberger's back, who always does a voice cameo in all the Pixar films. That action scene is great, and then Elastigirl's action scenes are fantastic too, and they build up, and they do a really good job building up that there's this, who we hear is Screenslaver out there, and she's taking advantage of media, and she's tech savvy, just like the sister. And so again, there was another clue there that was dropped in really heavily, but really good action scenes, really good fight scenes, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed the action scenes more in Incredibles 2 than in the first one, and I love the first one. So we go along, we keep moving forward, and she is figuring there's something deeper going on than when we think the bad guy is caught. It's not adding up to her. It's pretty obvious to the audience. Something doesn't add up, that there's something deeper going on, that there's kind of a setup here. But I do like how Elastigirl has to think about through the problems. It's not always about getting there in the nick of time or who's got the biggest muscles. It is that detective work, and I love that. I always love that from Batman, and they brought that here and made that part of the story, and I think they did that well. So along with the rehab of superheroes, they save an ambassador, and the ambassador is going to change the laws, and all the people are being brought together at the same time, including some new superheroes who I think are done very well. Their powers aren't as strong, they're not as dynamic, but again, in a team superhero adventure, it is about getting them all to kind of work together, and I like those aspects of superhero. I don't think one superhero should have all the powers anyway. So as we move along forward, we find out the Screenslaver has a way of hypnotizing everybody, and Elastigirl falls into this trap. And eventually, so does Mr. Incredible and Frozone. But even those are really done well, and the kids got to step up and try and save the day. Now, before we've got to save today's, there's some awesome scenes. Most of them revolve around Jack. When Jack's powers become apparent, he has a scene with the raccoon that I have to say is hilarious. It's one of the funniest things I've seen. It's going to be a classic scene that everybody talks about and sees again and again and will watch. Highly rewatchable. You're really going to enjoy that. Only to be trumped by the relationship with Edna Mode and Jack. Jack does some mimicking feature and mimics Edna, and the highest form of flattery is that an impersonation. So Edna falls in love with Jack, finds out a way to use the powers, or at least predict them so they can use them a little bit better to their abilities, or curb them, because he's a small baby, that has these incredible powers. So that becomes an issue for the family, and they handled that really well. And just like in the first film, while they're trying to defeat the bad guy and take care of the baby at the same time, they're trying to figure out the same thing. Now, I do have to say, one of the things they did really well here, Violet using her powers in this one, she's able to throw shields, so they've done a good job upping her up. Dash, on the other hand, he gets a little bit of a backseat in this film, and that's a little bit of a shame, but I think to service the whole film and all the characters that are involved with it, I get it. You know, you can't, they really upped up Jack's role in this, so someone had to take a backseat, and Dash got the backseat in this, I'm afraid. So the Incredibles come, the kids save the day, and they're able to thwart the evil plan. And one of the things I didn't like about the film again is they kind of wrap it up a little too neatly. I wish they would play a little bit more in this playground where the supers still need to rehab their reputation. At the end of the film, the law is signed or rescinded, however you want to put it, a new law is put in place, or the old law is rescinded, that basically supers are allowed back. And I think it would have been, if they're going to continue along with this route, and one of the advantages of animation is they can, in 5 years, they can come back, and it's next Tuesday. You know, they can do that. And I think it would have been neater to see the superheroes continue to rehab their reputation. I think kind of like X-Men 2, where all of a sudden we've gone from mutants being hated to all of a sudden we're accepting them and they're, you know, part of the cabinet and all that stuff. A little too quickly for that social change. It would have been interesting to see how they moved along that track, if they're going to make some more Incredibles. Now, based on the box office, they probably will, but Brad Bird, the director of the film, the writer, he makes The Incredibles. It's all his baby. I don't know what he's going to do. He's got a good chance of doing anything he wants. I mean, he was invited to do Star Wars, but he can do whatever he wants. If he decides to wait another 14 years, which he could do before he comes back, or he can make another one next year. But I would love to keep coming back to this and seeing this family who we've fallen in love with as Jack goes through his stuff, and Violet goes through her issues, as Dash would say. Is she adolescing? It's just a wonderful film. Everything that you liked about the first film is back in this film. Like I said, the bad guy's good, and there's actually some conversations that put a little bit depth to it. So it's not just a typical two-dimensional, like we used to see in earlier Marvel films, where it's a two-dimensional, just a regular bad guy, or just because they're bad. There's more to it than that. And I like that. There's some conversations before the reveal of the true antagonist of the film. There's conversations between Elastigirl and Evelyn that make you kind of go, they're really thinking about it. They put some depth here, and I like that. I also think I told you a little bit about the detective film, that being a superhero or trying to do the right thing or trying to stop the bad guy isn't always about strength. And I kind of like that from Black Panther. They did that well. There's some education going on, and that's where I think it would have been neat to see where the Incredibles go with this, and as they try and raise their family and educate society and change it. Samuel L. Jackson, great as Frozone again, and I mean, again, everybody did a great job. I really like this film. I really would like you to go see it. One thing I do have to this might be the grandpa in front of me. I'm the old guy who's a little too hurt. They use a word that I don't necessarily think they should have put in on a cartoon film. Like, I don't think you should bring kids to go see the Avengers Infinity War because it's just too intense. It's too violent. The kids shouldn't be there. But we know that kids are going to be in there. Well, The Incredibles even more so. You know kids are going to be in there. And they use CRAP. I mean, Mr. Incredible uses it. I was a little surprised when I heard him say it. And then the antagonist uses it too at one point. I just think you could have done something else on this one. It's not that I'm a prude or anything like that. It's just on my Disney films, on my Pixar films, I'm just, that's not something I'm expecting to see. So I was a little surprised to see that. Now, I know anytime you're doing a review, you're talking about the strengths and the weaknesses, and it sounds like a 50-50 thing. It's not. This film is amazing. Go see it. Really enjoy it. Let me know what you thought of it. I'm really curious. I want to know what you thought of it. And, I think this, again, will go down as, you'll be able to rewatch it again and again and again, and it's just going to get better. I really do think this will get better and better with more viewing. So, with that being said, if you enjoyed this film, please give it a thumbs up. It really makes a difference to us. Don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when there's a new video in, and I'll see you real soon.